Posso chiudere? Dice il video non funziona. Ci sta anche Sannino, chi è collegato? Sannino ci sono. Siamo tutti collegati?
Francesco, Sannino si sono
Ok,
tutti
perfetto.
collegati. Devo solo attivare il microfono.
Good morning to everybody. Have the great pleasure of introducing and moderating this interesting panel with the great expert. We figure out the opportunities and challenges from innovative communication of scientific results. We have a rich panel with great experts. I'll introduce them shortly. Let's first introduce something about science dissemination and public engagement. The REST4Net community, this panel is the occasion to present the REST4Net community. That is a network among 14 Italian universities and research institutes. We aim to reach an international dimension as soon as possible. The REST4Net arises from the realization that the languages and channels of scientific communication are changing. REST4Net wants to offer scholars the opportunity to increase the visibility of scientific production by using emerging technologies. Scientific publications are the quintessence of academic life, in the form of written articles and books. They constitute the outline of scientific work, the instrument of dialogue with the specialized community, and the resource to formalize research activity. Publications are the result of an elaborate process in which multiple conditions and elements converge, making it possible to read the career of the individual researcher, but also the evaluation of doing and telling science, that is the collective level. There is a story in every scientific article, but finding those stories may be complex. Many articles are restricted from public access by subscription fees. In addition, they are written in a technical and jargon filler manner. For matter experts, this form of a presentation may not be constructive, but for people outside the field, outside academia, it may ensure that the tale is not understood. Different types of summaries have recently been incorporated to increase the science accessibility. The new technologies fringe the possibility of reconfiguring the traditional way of communicating, giving rise to new practices and strategies with increasing conscious use of the affordances of new media and modes of representation in the context of changing conditions on the techno-ontological level. Digital transformation is impacting the evolution of scholarly publications with the introduction of new languages and new multimodal formats. Using digital language in academic practices leads to the significant growth of native digital production. It is undeniable at the present that the debate on the forms and the formats of publication has now become more and more stringent and parallel to the disciplinary one. This debate involves profound level of generating and sharing with societies provocative questions that lead to the investigating of ultimate meaning and the role of scientific narrative. So why do we publish? Does the dissemination of a scientific article respond to cognitive, social, and broad cultural finalities, or exclusively to purposes internal to the scientific community? It is precisely these questions that shift the spotlight from inside to outside the academy, from the page of sectorial literature to the social effects of research. We have to think about a future directory involving the instrumental level that is the changing media and different form of communication of scientific research, the linguistic level, through the renewed rhetoric and grammar of academic work, beyond the written form and the monopoly of textual editing, then the cultural level, by the growing demand for public involvement in scientific debate, and of course the economic level with the pressing reflections on the monetization models of academic publishing. In addition, we have to consider the two levels of motivations. The first one is individual, so we publish to validate our scholarly work, including receiving feedback by colleagues, to increase scholar status and scientific recognition, and to advance in the academic career. But there are also social motivations, such as disseminate results to non-academic audience, fuel new research on topic, and of course influence policy makers. Digital media blur the boundaries between the two purposes through various levels, ranging from the possible collective construction of the object of knowledge to the contamination between personal and professional spaces managed by scholars, to the cross-distribution of the academic work, to the permeability between the levels of research, teaching, and scientific dissemination. The new digital technology and new media have increasing importance in daily communication, changing many of the actors' habits and way of life. There has perhaps not been such a strong influence since the invention of the printing. Tech-mediated communication has a variety of forms whose linguistic properties vary depending on the kind of messaging system used and the social and cultural context embedding particular instances of use. With the transition to Web 3.0, a dynamic and interactive platform accessible to all, including the most inexperienced user, we have the opportunity to innovate. Recently, we have been witnessing the growing also of virtual agents, and we will see more experimentation with the metaverse. How will communication of scientific research change? The panel aims to foster debate to the merging of new representative practices. The language acts as an enabler for the emergence of actors' relationship and co-creation. Even the meaning of words is seen as co-creating. The new representational practices, the ability to integrate and link different communication codes plays a central role. The world of digital media is not characterized by a new unique language, but by a plurality of styles and forms of expression corresponding to different situations and needs. To put scientific terms into conversational language, we should imagine we are telling the story to a layperson. Since the beginning of the digital age, technical developments have largely replaced all traditional information transfer techniques. The scientific research community has therefore gotten closer to embrace these revolutionary changes as a result. I'll show you as an example, there are two written articles published in journals, and then the attempt to transform to a non-academic public. And videos are also our expert will show shortly, are aimed at the scientific public, but are open to anybody and will reach a wider audience. Perfect, no problem. So to conclude, in the ongoing transformation, we stress that science is a public good. At the core is accessibility in terms of participation in research and comprehensibility of the results and the entire scientific activity. Of course, we can see more a democratization of knowledge. We need to extend the right of access to scientific materials, especially if the result from public funding. And technology and social media can make a valuable contribution in the academic community, especially in the wake of digital evolution. And it is important to understand how scientific evaluation will change. And it is important to increase, as the focus should be on public engagement, to optimize and make research and knowledge dissemination more efficient with the systems and tools that allow openness to external stakeholders, collaboration through online platform, and increasing of open process. So challenges are multiple. They relate to actors, multidisciplinary resources, and interlinked social material practices. A new ecosystem emerged. Our panel is an attempt to debate on this challenge. Thanks a lot for your attention. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Tullio Rossi. He is the director of Animate Your Science, and he will speak about unleash the impact of your research with the video and graphical abstracts. Thanks a lot and welcome, Dr. Rossi.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, or I should say, buongiorno. I can hear a bit of an echo, so maybe better to turn off the speakers on the laptop in the room. So I'm Dr. Tullio Rossi, and I'm the founder and director at Animate Your Science, a company based in Australia, which I founded 5 years ago after completing my PhD. So as a segue from the Professoressa Mele introduction, I will start with the provocative question, but at the end, why bother with all this science communication work? It is work, it is taking time, it is expensive, and it's most likely not in your job description. So why should we bother? That's a very fair question that I get a lot. So let me show you a few trends that I noticed, which will help answer this question together. First of all, the academic world is changing. And for decades, academia has been ruled by the dogma of publish or perish, which resulted in a world where we have over 2.5 million papers published every year. That's about 7,000 per day. And just to give you an idea, during my PhD, I would have had to read more than 3 papers per day just to keep up with the literature in my field. Do you think I did that? Of course not. And I'm sure you're not reading all those papers too. So let's be honest. We live in a world where we have a very serious risk that our research may never get cited or even read by anybody. Not because there is anything wrong with it, but simply because it gets lost in this ocean of research papers. And you know who doesn't like research papers that get lost and never get cited? Funding agencies. They actually want to see evidence of broader impact. But broader impact has been a bit of evasive concept. How do we measure it? How do we put a number on it? Because traditionally, all we could do is to count citations, measure the impact factor, calculate the H index, and that's about it. But if in this iceberg that represents the whole impact of a piece of research, you can see that there's a lot more that we haven't been able to tap into. At least until this new tool came along about 10 years ago. So it's not that new anymore. And this tool is a web crawler algorithm that enables us to put a number on all the mentions of each research papers out there on the internet. So it looks everywhere. It looks from social media to government reports and everything in between. And it captures the size of the conversation that develops around each research paper. So if we put this together with the fact that funding agencies want evidence of broader impact and the fact that we need our research to stand out in some way to be noticed, well, perhaps we are moving away from the old paradigm of publish or perish and moving towards a new one that we might call visible or vanish, meaning that if our research is not visible in some way, it's like it never happened. And of course, we don't want this to happen to our research. So what do? How do we succeed in this new arena? I like to make this analogy between posters and movies. Between papers and movies. Um, like there is more movies out there in the world that you can watch, possibly, just like there are more papers out there that you can read. So, how do you make your decision tonight after coming back home on which movie you're going to watch? You're most likely going to open Netflix or some similar app, scroll through the icons, which used to be posters, watch a few trailers, and then make your decision. Well, my question is, why don't we do the same for research papers? But instead of calling them posters and trailers, we call them graphical and video abstracts. Pretty much, they do the same job. So let's start talking about graphical abstract. Journals these days often demand them. It's not an option anymore. Many journals demand them at submission. And beyond the journal, often researchers use them on social media, a place where cute cat videos exist. And so if there are cute cat videos around, you better have something visual. Otherwise, you stand no chance to compete with cat videos. So here's an example of how you should not promote your research on social media and how perhaps you should. On the left, it's just a string of text with a link. It goes perfectly unnoticed. On the right, a clever researcher does the same thing but adds a nice graphical abstract which grabs people's attention and explains a bit about the paper. So even the layperson is able to understand what this research is about. And there is even research that shows that sharing research this way, so with a visual abstract on social media, on Twitter in particular, works. And so the reach you get is almost 8 times as high. And the people that actually go and read your paper is almost 3 times as high. So these tools do the job they're supposed to do. So what should this graphical abstract look like? Well, not like this. Don't just pretend that the pretty picture, the pretty graphic in your paper is the graphical abstract. It is not. And I've identified 4 different kinds. So let's go through them. And by the way, the 4 you're about to see, they're all about the same research paper, but you'll see that they're each radically different, but they all tell the same stuff. So the style number 1 is the classic diagram. This is the most common one, straight to the point. Molecule A meets molecule B. They do something together to create molecule C. No context, straight to the point, very much for experts. It doesn't provide any idea what the research is about. So it is useful if used in conjunction with the paper as you're reading the paper. Style number 2, similar. This one came out from the medical field. It has a little bit more information, but it's still very much geared towards experts because it contains p-values, which will be perfectly useless and meaningless for the general public out there. And it also does not provide much context. And then, as I noticed, these 2 types were not really useful for the general public, for the non-expert, I decided to create a new style, which looked a bit more like an infographic, and it did contain a bit more text, which I thought was important to make the person understand what the research is about before they read the paper. In this way, it can help them make that decision, and it makes the research paper more discoverable on social media and enticing for people to actually click and learn more. If you are brave and you want to dare to represent your research as a comic strip, you can. And trust me, if you go down this path, you will be rewarded. The researcher we made this one for said that by using this graphical abstract on a research poster, she ended up getting a new collaboration, a new co-authorship, and even an invite to write a book. All of this because of the amazing networking that she did at the conference, because her poster looked unique and different, and it captivated everyone's attention. So this shows how being different and original works, even in science. And let's now spend a few words about video abstracts. Journals, they're not demanding them at this stage, but often encourage them. And here's, for example, a screenshot from Current Biology from Cell Press. They do allow video abstracts to be embedded on the article page before the paywall. And I think this is a great idea. And I'm surprised not more journals are doing this at the moment. People that will really love them are journalists, especially if you gear them towards the general public and you keep the jargon out. Journalists we found will jump on them. And here in the screenshot is a local Australian newspaper. We made this video for a client, and the journalist put it above the title on the online article page, so as prominent as it can get. And she said, oh yeah, we love this kind of content, please more. So definitely, if you want your research featured in the media, this is a good idea. And the important thing here is that having a video of this kind puts you in the driver's seat, because journalists, most of the time, they do a good job, but sometimes things can go wrong and research can get misreported. Having a video of this kind puts you in control, and because you develop the video with a company like us or by yourself, and so you're in control of that process. And if you license the video in a certain way, you can make sure that people use the video, but they cannot modify it. And so that puts you in control over the way your research is portrayed, which is a very important thing. Also, in this case, we know from the literature that this tool is effective. The altmetric score of papers with video abstracts is double of those papers without. The article reads is almost double, and the citations are more than double. So definitely effective tools at their job. And what do they look like? Well, if you're a lucky researcher doing awesome work on the field, well, then great. Use the footage from your field experiments. People will love it. But for most of us, it's not the case. So you have really two options left. Either you do a talking head video or you make an animation. And of course, I might be biased, but the animation is my favorite approach. And for a number of reasons, because nobody needs to appear on camera. And I used to be camera shy, and I'm sure many researchers are. So this is definitely an advantage. Nobody needs to be uncomfortable on camera. And it works on every topic. Doesn't matter if you can film it or not. You can make a sketch and animate that sketch. So you can make an animation about anything. And it can be expensive, but also can be cost effective and relatively easy to make. It depends at what level you position yourself with the complexity of the animation. And again, from the literature, we know that these animations are outcompeting talking head videos when it comes to learning outcome, how fun of an experience the people say it is, and how shareable the video is, which is very important on social media, of course. But another reason I think these tools are important goes well beyond our selfish desires to advance our career and have the best metrics we can have. Let's talk about open science, right? There's a lot of talking about this concept. It's great to remove the paywall and make science free to read. But I will argue that there is another wall, and that's the wall of jargon. And nobody has really been talking or tackling that wall. If you're a non-expert trying to read a paper, let's say on some medical or field on a disease you have or your beloved person has, you will still be faced with this wall of jargon. So if we use this graphical and video abstract as tools to keep the jargon out and explain what the research is about simply, we have a very valuable tool we can use to, in my view, make science truly open. Not just free to read, but also accessible in the sense that it's understandable. And that will be of great service to society. So what are the takeaways from today's presentation? Academia is changing and you need to adapt, like it or not. So my suggestion is to embrace these graphical and video abstracts because it's good for you, it's good for your career, and it's good for society. So thank you very much for listening. I wish I could be with you in La Bella Napoli. I will conclude by sharing a very exciting project we just launched last week, which is the Swipe SciComm. This is the world first science communication magazine, and it is a mobile first magazine designed to be consumed on your phone. So if you are interested in this, all you need to do is to go on Google, search for Swipe SciComm, and you'll find it right away. Enjoy the read. It is designed for researchers and science communication professionals, and I'm sure you will find something interesting in there. As a last note, here are my... oh, that was my last slide. All good. That's it. Thank you very much for the attention, and I look forward to interacting with you and after the coming presentations. Enjoy the rest of your day. Buona giornata.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Rossi. Thanks a lot, Tullio, for this very inspiring presentation. We enjoyed a lot. And I want to ask after each presentation if there are some questions from the audience, as we are several people. And there is one.
Yeah. So first, thank you, Tullio.
Can you hear, or I ask the lady to come here?
A little bit.
Yeah, maybe it's better if you can. Okay, perfect. We have the.
Thank you. So first, thank you, Tullio, for your beautiful presentation. So I was wondering, what are the biggest challenges, the biggest difficulties in making the video abstract? So are there, for example, demanding academics, demanding professors? So what are the biggest problems, the biggest
difficulties, maybe
yeah,
in making video abstracts?
Difficulties in making video abstract for the researcher or in general?
Yeah, of course.
From an academic point of view.
Okay. I would say that often price is a challenge. And I think that is a problem because researchers don't budget for these things in their grants. And so, if you out of the blue, you might not have a few $1,000s ready to spend, but if you put that in the budget and you say you get $1 million in funding, my recommendation would be, well, allocate just 5% to outreach activities. If you have $50,000, you can do a lot of really cool stuff. So it's just a matter of a mentality that needs to change in academia, and funding agencies need to be on board with it, of course. Some of them are, not all of them, but also researchers need to be a bit more courageous and ask for funding in their budgets for outreach activities. And then engaging an agency like mine or others is not a problem, and the budget is there.
Okay, thank you.
There is another question. Yes.
Thanks a lot for the presentation. It was very brilliant and interesting. But my question is this one. Also from the previous presentation, it was remarked that science is public and should remain public. Now, if your excellent intuition, don't think that it's possible that the one that is that has more money could spread his scientific or serious scientific ideas more than one that has less money. What I mean is that to make what you are suggesting, it is important to have money. If I need to Spielberg, for instance, Spielberg communication, my papers, and let Spielberg present my papers with the 9 hours, which is speaking from the I don't know, from the national board as, for instance, the Organization of the United Nations. I mean, it's a very brilliant movie. It's a very brilliant and fascinating presentation of my papers. But of course, this has nothing to do with the scientific value of my papers.
Okay, unfortunately, the echo is really bad, and I didn't understand a thing. Can you repeat, Cristina, briefly what the question is about?
To summarize, it's what is the issues about the scientific value of video abstract? If you have money, if a researcher has money, they can publish whatever they want, and if they go to a famous art director as Steven Spielberg, as the example our colleagues say, so you have a very great video abstract, a very great movie, but the contribution to the, I can say, sort of fake news or fake videos. How we can, okay, I got it, the message. How can we avoid this sort of, I can say, mistake, this trend?
Oh, look, I don't think we need to worry about that, at least for another 10 years, because with video abstracts, up until 5 years ago, nobody was even considering it. Now it's starting to become a thing and is becoming more and more adopted. But I have a Google alert on that sends me an email every time somebody publishes a video abstract, or at least something called video abstract. And 95% of them are just the most basic talking head videos made by the individual researcher with no gear, nothing. So any improvement on that, I think, is a positive. And having a nicely produced video abstract, of course, it costs some money, but again, if it becomes part of the normal publication cycle and funding agencies are on board with it, I don't think it's a problem anymore. And I'll give you an example. The Association for Commonwealth Universities, the funding agency that funds research in the whole of the Commonwealth, so in first world nation, but also many third world nations. They came to us and they said, we want you, Animate Your Science, to produce 8 videos for our funded projects. So the videos were free for the researcher. It was the initiative of the funding agency to say, okay, let's highlight this research we funded. And so there were some researchers from sub-Saharan Africa that they would have never been able to afford a video produced by us. They could, because the funding agency took care of that. So I think that's where we need to go in the future. And it will take some time, but I think we're moving in that direction.
If I can add, one way is that video abstracts come from written publication. So we have the peer review, the traditional evaluation. And the second way, it would be a sort of, I can say, ratings of, think about TripAdvisor, Trustpilot, a sort of a platform for evaluating the quality and the contents of video abstracts coming from academic systems. So I think that as community we could be able to, or we could develop. Of course, but we have a lot of presenters. Thanks a lot, Dr. Rossi, and
Thank you.
with us. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our colleagues from University of Naples Federico II. He's also chair and founder of the Danish AAS at University of Southern Denmark, Professor Francesco Sannino, and he will tell us about the fashionable world of quantum Kate. Benvenuto, welcome, and thanks a lot.
Thanks, Cristina. Thanks for organizing this, and thanks for the invitation. I really very much enjoyed also the presentation by Tullio, and I couldn't agree more with him. Being a theoretical physicist, we are probably very low on the list of being exciting when we do our research. I hope that you will enjoy this presentation. I will now try to put it in full screen. Please let me know if you can see the full screen. Are you able to see the full screen? Hello? Anybody there? Hello? Yes, okay. Wonderful, excellent. Okay, very good. So, why Quantum Kate? So this is a project that I started about a few years ago. And the reason why I started it is because if you ask people around what do they think about quantum physicists, the first thing that comes to their mind is this picture. Right? This is Einstein and Bohr discussing together. You can possibly imagine that this is not the most exciting picture you can have of quantum physicists, but those are, dare say, one of the most, two of the most iconic figures in our field. A few years ago, there was the discovery of the Higgs, which led the Nobel Prize 1 year later. And if you ask to people what they think about Higgs, you will see that the scientists will, of course, very excited. They will say that, well, we'll begin to understand how matter holds together. The military will start thinking, well, we can develop a new generation of weapons, but the ordinary public, wouldn't possibly care less. They will still go on and think about that. Probably Kim Kardashian is more relevant to think about on that day than the discovery of the Higgs. So that leads clearly to demonstrate that we fail to communicate even the most exciting findings. So what is our target? I was interested in communicate to the younger generations. So Tullio was discussing about communicating our research to the public in general, but I think that we have also a problem in terms of needing to educate even or engage younger generations. So the target that I set up to try to engage were the cool kids, the ones which will never really think about even considering going into science because it's not cool enough. So they constitute roughly 98%.
Francesco,
yeah.
I'm sorry, but okay, we see the sixth slide now, but before we are seeing only the first one.
Okay, so let me just go back. Can you?
Okay.
So I will just have it like this. Can you see like this? Yeah. Right, you can see it like this, right?
Now the second one.
Yes. So this was the second. You didn't miss much because after Quantum Kate, I just, the question I asked myself, what do you think about quantum physicists? What we think about quantum physicists? And this is the image that the people have about quantum physicists. This is Bohr and Einstein. Clearly, they're not the most exciting, picture you can have in your mind about quantum physicists. And if you go even further to the discovery of the Higgs in 2012, which led to the Nobel Prize the year later, well, if you ask to the different type of communities, of course, the scientists were extremely excited. We finally understand how matter holds together. If you ask a military, it will say, can we make a new type of weapons? And if you had asked the common public, they would probably have answered, gosh, I wonder what Kim Kardashian is doing right now, meaning that they couldn't possibly care less about the discovery of the Higgs. So, but what is the target? I believe that there is, it is our responsibility to actually talk to the younger generations and excite them about science overall, right? And in fact, my dream is that to show that science can be as exciting as Harry Potter. But this target is pretty tough. It's made by cool kids that they think the science is boring to death. And mostly they identify science with the teacher they have in the high schools. And let's be honest, the teachers, not that they're boring, but they have a hard time competing, as Tullio said, with visual videos about anything but science. So these are the 98 to 99% of the community that thinks that science is really not for them. So the question is, can we actually change this? So I have a dream. So the way to do this is to combine art and science in order also to eliminate gender barrier and show that science is cool. So revolutionize education by going basically one step deeper in combining these two forms of communication. So we need a cooler approach. How do you actually approach teenagers? Well, you can approach teenagers by, this will be being more funny if you could actually see the animation, but if you have teenagers talking to them, right? So imagine that you had a teenager that happened to be a girl. She's a YouTuber, because nowadays kids don't watch TV anymore. They actually are on YouTube all the time. That she's fashionable and she has a boyfriend. She's madly in love with math. So this is extremely relatable. This is exactly what the teenager will love to have as a friend. So she's friendly, she's cool, and she's funny. It took hundreds of hours to think about how to make a character that was relatable, right? So these are some of the early sketches from the animators. The animators are famous animators in Denmark that won several prizes for many movies they had made. And they actually decided to be on board of the project and start, coming up with ideas. Maybe one of the most successful part of our project was that the animator themselves studied the books of quantum physics to be able to explain it to the kids. That was amazing. So they came up with different ideas, different concepts. And as you can see, not all of those made the light of the day. But finally, we ended up with Quantum Kate. Quantum Kate, which in Danish is Kvante Karina, was an instant success in Denmark. Right now, it has about 9,000 subscribers, and it was viewed almost, I think by now, close to almost a quarter of, more than 500,000 views, right? Now, she's been dubbed in many languages, and including English, and I hope you can hear her first episode.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this video. What? I'm super excited. Check out my hand, mega shaky. It's like every quark or proton or gluon inside me is shivering. No, calm down, Kate. You guys know what an atom is made of? No, right? An atom basically consists of electrons that zip around the nucleus, which is made of protons.
Hi there.
And neutrons.
What up?
But there's more.
Hey.
If you look inside neutrons or protons, you can see that they're made of even smaller parts, quarks. There are 3 in a proton, up, and down.
That is what we're called.
There are also gluons that carry a force called the strong force, which holds the quarks together so they don't escape. Gluons, just like glue. Glue, get it? All this is just a super small part of what we know about atoms. And there are still tons of new things to discover. Oh man, I'm totally not shivering anymore. You go, girl! Thanks for watching. It was awesome. Please subscribe. Bye-bye.
So as you can see, these were peels of this was the introductory movie. All the movie are roughly animation 1 to 2 minutes long, because the studios say these are extremely expensive and these are extremely high quality movies. So what was the reaction of the kids? I mean, especially the target of kids we wanted. They loved her, right? I'm sure you don't read very easily Danish, but maybe you can read that. That is not very far from English right now. They love it. It was exactly the cool kids that they would never ever really wanted to know about quarks and gluons inside the nuclei. We have a number of stories. So these cartoons have been used by the high schools teachers to be able to introduce extremely hard projects or hard concepts and then work them out to capture the attention of the teenagers. So we had an immense response even from psychologists, because again, they could they were happy to see that now kids could visualize very hard subjects. So that was actually personally rewarding. The success led to the dubbing of Quantum Kate in many languages, almost 14 languages. And we actually were lucky enough to receive a number of awards. I would like you to notice that the earrings of Quantum Kate are actually the famous H-bar that is the unit of measure of the quantum world, right? We also made an app, a three-dimensional app that you can download from the App Store, and you can see that indeed explains actually very complicated concepts by asking the kids to move around and capture quarks to make indeed protons and neutrons and many other particles that we observe in accelerators. Now, what next? Now, what's my dream next? I'm giving up on that, and of course the funding is required to do that. But the next is, can we transform Quantum Kate in the Mickey Mouse of education? Some people dare to call her indeed the Mickey Mouse of education, and this is very ambitious, and we will probably bound to fail. But if you don't try, you are absolutely sure that you're going to fail. So I would love to build the Quantum Kate universe. So in the same way where Walt Disney built the Mickey Mouse world, but he failed. Walt Disney, he was also motivated by education when he started also the project of Mickey Mouse. But then it became only entertainment, not information anymore. And of course, we're trying to also break the barriers. And here you see that the main characters are all male-ish, and female characters always secondary characters. While we would like to turn this around and change that gender bias. Okay, so we would like to introduce some friends for different subjects. So if we succeeded with quantum physics, I'm pretty sure we can do with medicine, biology, chemistry, math, and demonstrate in general that science is fun. This can also be extended to economy. I mean, it doesn't have to be only into the ordinary STEM and only STEM programs, but it can be also done for humanities. So this is partially top secret, but I mean, it requires funding, so we have not done it yet. So since a few years, we indeed also drew the new potential friends of Quantum Kate. And you can see that the friends also break the barriers. The biologist now is a boy, the mathematician is a lady, and so it's a lady, a medical doctor in the back, and there is also a chemist. So the hope is that we can bring the Quantum Kate Blue Sky Town to alive one of these days. So if we can realize this dream, I believe we will be able to bring new teaching resources for high schools. We can come with a Quantum Kate universe-based curriculum. So for example, you can imagine to have that each chapter of a book starts with a movie, an animated movie, and then can actually introduce a new subject in some depth, so that we can have an early engagement of teenagers and even younger kids, adults to be interested in that. So make STEM fun to learn. So the ambitions are therefore to reach out to teenagers, show that physics science is the new cool, and it is okay to be smart. I mean, it's a wave of new kids that will in the future be able to address challenges that humanity faces. So hopefully we could try to revolutionize science and education. So thank you for being here, and I so totally subscribe to Nelson Mandela that education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. So I will leave you with the same. Yeah, thank you. I want to show you this that is in different language.
Hej allesammans och välkommen till den här videon. What? Oh, I'm super excited. Check out my hand. Make it shaky.
Als würde jedes einzelne Quark oder Proton oder Gluon in mir schlottern. Calmos-Kate. Est-ce qu'au moins vous savez de quoi c'est fait un atome? Vous savez quoi?
En atom består huvudsakligen av elektroner som dansar runt i en kärna som är gjord av protoner och neutroner.
Läget?
哇，拆开中子或质子的话，可以看到它们由更小的粒子组成，是夸克。一个质子里有3个夸克，2个上1个下。
我们就是上下夸克。
Sitten on gluoneja, jotka välittää niin vahvaa voimaa, joka pitää kvarkit yhdessä, jotta ne ei karkaa.
Gluoner? A cosa sono glu? Lim? Skjønner? E questo non è che una minuscolissima parte di ciò che sappiamo degli atomi.
Tää on ennþá hellingur sem við mertir að uppgötva.
Oh wow, ég alveg hægt að skjálfa.
You go, girl!
Gracias por seguirme. Sois geniales. No olvidéis suscribiros. Adiós.
All right. Sorry. I need to show you.
Thanks a lot. Really, really congratulations for your breakthrough project on science. We really like to see more friends of quantum cake, maybe also someone related to management, to marketing, or economics, if I can say. We have time for a question. Okay. Maybe first Jim, and then no, Jim over there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I really appreciated your presentation, and I just want to say it was books like How Things Work. When I was a child, it was seeing things that help make science accessible that got me excited about science. I wonder if that's true of many of us here. There were things I couldn't understand when I tried to reach books in the library, but there were publishers who took an interest in making science accessible. And I guess my question is, do you think those publishers and others who are trying to make science accessible to young minds, have they gone away, or are they just not doing their job? Or I'm just curious your perspective on that.
Sorry. I'm not sure I understood the entire question because it was far away. But so are you saying whether or not publishers are interested in this kind of projects?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why the market isn't working.
Yeah. So, yeah. I have to say, I mean, we invested an immense amount of energies in doing this kind of thing. And I mean, I'm pretty successful in my time. This is just a sidekick to be able. I really want to bring back to society. I was very much disappointed because kids really loved this. We had an insane response from parents, families, teachers. But it's basically, I'm sure Tullio also shares that. It's extremely uphill to convince to provide more funding to do this. So I have to say I'm a little bit, let's say, disappointed because I see that although there are obvious things we can do to help our kids and our teenagers love and learn much more quickly, there is a rubber wall when it comes to really do something originally new. Eventually, they give funding to yet open another webpage, which we all know is useless. Right? Let me just say that that's the case. So as a pilot project, this was extremely successful. I think somehow I wonder whether society really cares about our kids in the end learning more. I have to say that. So I think it's you cannot expect scientists to do this huge amount of work constantly on the top of the things that we already do, just for the sake of doing it and not actually being able to have support. I have to say this. So I would say I would love to do more, but I have seen that we hit a wall very quickly. So
Thank you.
I don't know how to go forward with that. I mean,
Thank you very much. We are all out of time also for other presenters. Thanks a lot, Professor Sannino. Congratulations. Now we have Dr. Fabrizio Doccula. He's Associate Director of Customer Success for JoVE, and he will present how JoVE advances the productivity and reproducibility of scientific multidisciplinary research via peer-reviewed video-based publications. Here.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Fabrizio Doccula, and I work at JoVE as an Associate Director for Customer Success for EMEA and LatAm. I want firstly to thank the organizer, Cristina and the rest for NAT for the kind invitation and to organize such a beautiful event in Rome. So in the next few minutes, I will introduce you to the JoVE world and its impact and positive impact on the scientific research and science communication. In 2021, Nature delivered an online questionnaire addressed to 1,500 researchers worldwide, asking them if they think there is a reproducibility crisis. There was a general agreement and a common acknowledgement, I would say, on the crisis the scientific world is experiencing regarding methods and experiment reproducibility. Indeed, 90% of them reported there is a reproducibility crisis, and interesting, more than 70% of researchers have tried and failed to reproduce another scientist experiment or their own experiment. And this is happening in many STEM fields. In 2006, Moshe Prisker, who is the JoVE CEO and co-founder, that at the time was working as a postdoc at the University of Princeton, was trying to reproduce a crucial experiment for his research project. An experiment that was previously published in a traditional text-only journal from a Scottish lab. As many researchers, he struggled to reproduce it and actually failed, and he was, of course, upset about it. Luckily for him, his principal investigator had the budget to sponsor his trip to the lab in Europe, who firstly published the protocol, and once there, he could learn all the tricks and details by watching the expert, so the scientist, reproducing the methodology. So eventually, he went back home and reproduced the methods. However, this caused more than 2 months with a decrease in the lab productivity and more than $10,000 for him to replicate one single experiment if we consider reagents, strip, and lab equipment. So in this scenario, Moshe had the eureka, the idea to create JoVE, the Journal of Visualized Experiment. So Moshe thought to film researchers while they are doing their job, the magic, and to publish their science in let's say, in a hybrid or double format, showing both the test protocol that you can see on the left of the screen and the video of the experiment performed by the expert. So from our perspective, this new technology publication, so both textual and video-based allows to communicate better, more effectively their methods, increase visibility, and boost methods reproducibility and knowledge transfer. From user perspective, instead, having access to the JoVE content is an invaluable resource to reduce time, to reproduce and handle maybe a new technique, so increase research productivity. And the adoption of the journal videos is definitely a great tool to reduce cost in the lab, as well as being more sustainable. So JoVE, in just 15 years, since its foundation in 2006 in Boston, has become the world top leading producer of audiovisual, scientific, and multidisciplinary resources, with two main purposes: increase lab productivity and contribute to teaching innovation. I will show a little bit about this last point in the next few slides. Our video library contains more than 15,000 videos with a publication rate of over 1,200 new videos published per year, a growing number of subscribers and millions of users worldwide. These giant numbers are the results of the scientific accuracy of our resource, thanks to the peer review of the published research protocols, to the collaboration with the best international institutes for educational content production, and the high quality of our production and editorial team. JoVE not only publish protocols to support research, but we also have expanded our core business to support education too, by creating tools and collections that could have undergraduate, postgrads, PhD students, postdoc, junior, and senior researchers from the class to the lab. Currently, we publish two main operational tools, JoVE Research and JoVE Education. JoVE Research contains two main products, two main tools, but for time restraints, I will show you today just one of these, our flagship product, the JoVE Journal. You can also scan the QR code and go online and have a look. To the best of my knowledge, the JoVE Journal is the world's first peer-reviewed scientific video journal. Here, scientific research is published in a video format alongside the test protocol, bringing to life the intricate details of experimental methodology. JoVE Journal publishes research across 13 different disciplines, from biology to chemistry, from medicine to psychology, environment, neuroscience, engineering, and many more. All the video protocols are indexed in PubMed, Web of Science, Scopus, and other index services, and the journal comes with an impact factor. The production process of the journal is definitely unique. After submission and peer review of the manuscript by scientists, the accepted protocol is then transformed into a script by our production team, as it was a movie script. So consequently, we send to the lab our videographer to shoot the film of the experiment, filming the researchers, and after internal editing and proofreading, we published online. And even though we are on the market since only a few years when compared with the big publishers, we are very proud to get already the interest of prestigious scientists who have decided to publish their work with us at JoVE. Lastly, let's have a quick look to JoVE Education. So science communication of research activities is an essential part of researchers. And we have seen how the JoVE Journal plays an important role in facilitating reproducibility and accelerating productivity. JoVE Education instead is contributing to communicate science to the new generation of students, the Gen Z generation, which can be challenging. But if we want to get the students' attention and interest, a good advice is to communicate science by a channel they know and they use daily, which is the video format. In this view, among the four tools available for teachers to support their practical and theoretical teaching activities, JoVE shows a collection of fully animated videos helpful to support lectures. We currently count 8 collections in biology. Okay. We currently count 8 collections in biology, chemistry, physics, stats, psychology, and many more will be added in the future, such as job core nursing and anatomy and physiology. The idea is pretty simple. So here, one video, one concept. So videos are short and effective. So in this way, key concepts in science are brought to life through a high-impact animation, and students, through these videos, can learn faster and deeper. Okay, so these beautiful tools that I show you makes JoVE a must-have in the library. The most prestigious university and research centers subscribe to JoVE, and they use our content routinely. In Italy, basically, we experience the same. We count a growing number of customers, more than 40 institutions nowadays, and research centers nowadays have an institutional access to the JoVE catalog. Okay, and then last slide. So here you can find a way to reach me out by email or phone, and the beautiful work I think we are doing is because of the great people I work with, so my colleagues, and here you will find some of them working in Italy, so feel free to reach out to them directly, or you can just scan the QR code to request help, assistance, or just if you want to know more about JoVE. So with this, I would like to thank you for listening and open the floor.
Thank you, Fabrizio.
How much long is a type of video? Is it important?
The publication step of how much is long?
Yeah. The video.
It depends. I mean, the research one, so the one published in the JoVE journal, I would say from 8 to 10 minutes long. Okay. There are also shorter videos. While the education content videos are definitely shorter, the one that I showed you before, the JoVE core, are 1 or 2 minutes long. Let's say 2.5 in average. Science education video that show how to use lab equipment are a bit longer, 6 minutes. But I would say, yeah, research content is more or less 6 to 8 minutes. They show the details of, the experiment. In this way, you can replicate faster the experiment itself.
And then I have a question. What about the growth rate of the journal, research journal?
In terms of?
How much is the success? Can you measure the success year by year?
Okay. I would count by the number of customers, so institutions, let's say, that subscribe to JoVE. And I don't have the exact number, but now we are, I think, 4,000 institutions worldwide that access JoVE via library subscription, and this number are increasing year by year. Just in Italy, we count more than 45 institutions. In Southern Europe, we count 300 institutions accessing JoVE, so it's increasing year by year, definitely.
Are you recording this of boosting or the steady?
No, it's definitely boosting both from user perspective. So more and more scientists are approaching the methodology by watching them, but also more and more researchers want to publish in the journal because they think it's very valuable publication methodology nowadays.
Because this is a sort of changing mind of the research.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fabrizio, for very I can see we can see the different pieces of a puzzle or a new way of doing research and communicating research. Now, please let me introduce Pajam Sobhani. He's the founder and CEO of Latest Thinking, and he will speak about making research visible, how to empower scientists to share their research findings with the help of video. Good morning, Pajam.
Yes, do you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, super. I tried also to share presentation. Is it visible in the presentation mode? Yes, perfect. Yeah, it's thanks for having me. It's really very interesting. Very interesting perspectives, and I'm of course also a big fan of Kate, as all of you. And of course also of all the other presentations, very insightful. And I will try to share maybe the perspective that we have at Latest Thinking on science communication and how things we believe will develop in the future and how we position ourselves in this respect. Maybe just to start with our understanding of how the world still is. Basically, we have two main activities next to teaching at universities and institutions of researchers today. So on the one hand, of course, we do research as researchers. And then once we have certain use or let's say insights, then it's about publishing it. And what we're discussing, I think, all together now is how do we go further and in a systematic manner can somehow add a third pillar. And the third pillar is, next to doing research and publishing in peer-reviewed journals, how can we share our findings with an interested public, or even actually with colleagues which are not part of our peer group? Because even if you are a physicist, then sometimes, outside your peer group of a few hundred people, other people are not aware what you're doing or do not have insights in your field. Now, the situation that also described by the other panelists is, I think, the following, or what is the challenge that we have? We have science and we have the interested public, and somehow we have a gap of comprehension. As you see, our scientist on the left side is very excited about her research outcome, and she wants to share it with the interested public, but somehow our fellow on the right side has no clue what she is talking about. And what we at Latest Thinking thought about is, if we want to overcome this gap of comprehension, what is required in the long run to do that? And required not only in the sense of how can we have a unique project that tries to explain a certain topic, but how can we think about this topic with regard to millions of researchers in the same way that we had a few hundred years ago, the challenge of how do we publish research findings, and then we had this idea of journals. So what does it mean actually? What is required if we want to go beyond individual projects and reach out to the interested public, or at least broaden the scope? And there are some aspects I would like to share with you our perspective on. So the first thing, I think, which was also mentioned, is it was mentioned a bit differently. It was we had the idea of, okay, we need basically budget, and budget is also corresponding to a business model. So however we do this, we need to have a model how actually the whole enterprise of science communication in the long run is financed, And we firmly believe that this whole open access initiative is a basis for it. So if we are going to communicate science, and science, the outcome of science is a public good, somehow it needs to be freely available. This is why the way we approached is to say, okay, in the same way like also the colleague from JoVE mentioned, we try to integrate that into the ecosystem of funding, but we only do it with open science, with open access. We don't go for a subscription model, because we believe that what science actually has as output has to be accessible to interested public. So this is a basis, I think. Without a funding model, a business model, you will not succeed in the long run. Then the second point is that we need to think about content generation. And again, content generation not for in our perspective, not for a single project, but somehow for millions of researchers. And with regard to journals, you have established, and also JoVE brilliantly showed us how it's possible to establish mechanisms of content generation in large scale. So here, when we approached this topic, we very much thought about how can we standardize models of communication that are feasible for all researchers. And at that time when we started, we knew all TED and other models, but we realized soon that TED is something where performance is first and content is second. And also it's more like for, I would say, max 5% of the scientists. So if you want basically something that more scientists can do, you need to build the format in a way that it's feasible for them. And we actually very much rely on the concept that the researchers themselves present the research content and show their enthusiasm. And we believe that this can be enriched with illustration, visualization, which is very, very strong. But that at the center of the communication should always be the scientist, because if we are not talking about general content, but if we are really talking about the latest research, then this is something that the researcher knows. This is very deep content, and he's the one he needs to get, or she's the one who should be empowered to communicate that. So content generation is not an easy concept if you want to harmonize that. And we, just to give you an idea, we started building our own mobile green screen studio, which we can use, which we are flexible to ensure homogeneous quality. And one of the big projects that we are running right now is developing actually an app which allows content generation at a much lower cost than we are doing currently with our mobile green screen. And this is for us a vehicle to scale. Third, when it's about science and interested public, of course, the whole debate of fake news and misleading information comes in. So you need to ensure somehow a kind of quality management. And for us, the quality management is that whatever we publish is also linked to text publications, peer-reviewed text publications. So of course, here and there, we produce also other videos, but we don't put them on our platform because we believe that we need to find spaces where the public can rely on the fact that what is presented there is really science and peer-reviewed science. And this link to the publication, I think, is quite helpful, because this way, of course, it is integrated in the science ecosystem. Now, what's next? To make it more attractive, somehow you, of course, need content curation. You need to, in the long run, it's very interesting to show research from one area connected to other disciplines. So you want to present it in a very, very nice fashion. that people can search and find things and cluster of topics, and all this is very important. So this is also one piece in closing the gap. And last but not least, you need to think about a format on how to present it. And here, of course, we are relying fully on video. And I can show you also in a minute what are maybe features of this video that we believe are relevant. So having closed this gap means that now finally Alex can explain, and this, our researcher on the left is called Alex, what she's actually talking about. She says, I can show how investment decisions impact climate. And now our fellow on the right side says, interesting, tell me more. And this is exactly the gap that we need to close, and to do that in a systematic way. And I think we are at the very, very beginning in this adventure, of course, but this is a societal challenge that we believe needs to have also strategic approaches and long-term approaches that are less of a patchwork, but somehow have the potential to really grow. And this is what we are trying with others, of course, to see how that can basically work. Now, let me briefly maybe show you what are things that make up such a video format. What are some of our key learnings? Let me stop sharing here and share. This one. Now you should see, at least it's what I hoped, the browser, but I don't think do you see it? 2 minutes left. I see. No, right? You don't see it. Okay. But then let me just briefly, I stopped the sharing. Let me just say two words about the format, and then we can go to the questions. So we believe that the format actually in science communication, in the same manner that you have formats for journals, needs to have a structure. And the way that we organize our videos is, for example, to have always 5 chapters. So to have a question, what is a question, what is the method, what are the findings, why are these findings relevant, and what is the outlook. And this allows researchers not only basically to do that in an easy manner because they have these chunks, but also the audience to have clear expectations on what they get. And this makes actually, I think, a format that you can have hundreds or millions and people still know how to deal with that. Okay, yeah. I leave it at that. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Really clarity. Are there any questions? Yeah? Is there a question? Please.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. What do you think about the educational qualification? If it could be a good tool for making research more attractive to the public?
Oh, I'm very sorry. Even if there's a mic, I cannot.
Yeah, can you repeat, please? Maybe he didn't get.
What do you think about educational qualification? If it could be
okay, I got it. Maybe he can understand. She's asking about the use of gamification for education also in your format of business model.
About
educational gamification.
Education?
Yeah, gamification.
So gamification, now I got the word. Okay, sorry. Yes. No, we don't have it at the moment. We are thinking about that indeed, yeah. The way that we think about the whole communication concept is to say we go layer by layer, yeah. So if you have research, then you have basically peer-reviewed publications. Then I think you have something like JoVE, which is brilliant, I think, which shows us all the way to go. And then you have other layers, and we see ourselves actually on the layer which is on top of the journals and on top of JoVE. And then there will be other layers, actually we're also working on them, which make it more simple until we reach Kate. Yeah. And that is basically what we need to all together, I think, achieve an ecosystem where you know who's playing which part and do that in a systematic manner. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Sorry. Now we have to have the other presentation. We are a little bit late. So thanks a lot, Dr. Sobhani, very interesting. Congratulations. Now please let me introduce Dr. Rutger. She's coordinator of internationalization at Federico WebLearning. That is a platform of University of Federico II. And her speech is about transformative open innovation, massive open online courses, and multimedia for dissemination of scientific research. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here, and thank you very much for the invite. So, Cristina already introduced me, so yes, Ruth Kerr, heading the internationalization department at Federica, short for Federica Web Learning. And we're at the University of Naples Federico II. And this is the focus, really, of the first part of my presentation. Multimedia education is obviously a fast evolving field, and Federica has always tried to stay ahead of the game. For the last 5 years, therefore, our main focus, our core activity at Federica has been MOOCs, or Massive Open Online Courses. And this type of course, which is free and accessible to everyone, is part of our third mission, a public university giving something back to the public domain. MOOCs offer quality higher education content, and it's structured to provide a learning experience that's complete with objectives and outcomes, with assessment, and it's also delivered with an emphasis on audiovisual and interactive activities. They're also introduced on the platforms with trailer videos, going back to what one of the previous speakers was saying. And the fact that these courses are actually designed to provide scalable and engaging solutions means that visibility and reach are hugely increased. Depending on the language of delivery, of course, this reach can also be very international and also very heterogeneous. I want to just look at a couple of numbers before we go on, just to remind us really of the significance of MOOCs for scientific communication. So MOOCs in the world have seen a really huge increase in user interest since the global pandemic. It seemed like the lockdown opened the eyes of lifelong learners around the world to the benefits and joys of free online learning. And in fact, courses on health, self-care, psychology, and languages too, all increased massively, along with the more predictable data science and management studies. And this interest has stayed with us since 2000 and since the pandemic. Here we can just see a few figures. So by the end of last year, there were more than 220 million learners on how many courses? 20,000 courses from 1,000 universities across the globe. And Federica has also taken advantage of this, because this increase in online as the new normal has opened up, obviously, new opportunities for expansion, making university education more accessible, responding to the need for upskilling and reskilling, and also enabling universities to reach newer, more global audiences in global classrooms. So Federica too has increased its educational offer over the last couple of years. We've grown to become one of the top 10 in the world for MOOC production, and the #1 platform for delivery of courses in Italian in the world. Okay, these are just a few numbers. We have, these are our users, and these are our products. Our offer is really aimed at 3 main target audiences that you can see here. We have a wide range of curricular courses in multiple disciplinary areas. We have MOOCs where university professors share their disciplinary knowledge and the latest research in the field, their own and that of colleagues. And the Federica instructional design that we offer helps to ensure delivery of engaging and multimedia content. In fact, we have MOOCs which are actually dissemination tools for scientific research. We have MOOCs which are designed to help school leavers prepare for difficult university exams. And indeed, like Quantum Kate in a way, we also try to spark interest in STEM education at a university level. We have lots of MOOCs for the professional market where testimonials intervene in an interview format, or where the picture-in-picture graphics make for a more effective and engaging viewing. We also have lots of courses that use animation video. The language courses on Federica are a good example of this, I think, because the characters that we created on Viond and then we gave voice to using Synthesia software enabled us in a way to be colorblind and to go beyond stereotypes of race or gender or even accent and varieties of language. And we also have videos that use avatars instead of real teachers to explain or do tutoring. And we also have courses where a branching scenario enables students to choose their own learning pathway in accordance with personal interest or levels of competence. So, in 10 minutes, there is really very little time to take you on a proper trip, a proper tour round the Federica platform and really what we offer. So all I can do really is ask you to go and explore the platform and to contact us if you would be interested in publishing your research findings with us as a MOOC. Federica is an experienced and expert provider of MOOC services to help you realize your own vision and to guarantee an effective scientific communication. We work with the international platforms, edX and Coursera, guaranteeing a broader, more international reach. And as we can see here, it's a little complicated and a little small, but what I wanted to illustrate is how the Federica know-how encompasses every aspect of a project, from the design to the development, the production, the delivery, dissemination, monitoring, and analytics. So you're accompanied at every stage. This really just shows the complexity of the workflow involved in creating scientific communication, but then everybody this morning, nobody said it was simple or cheap. And here are just some of our major partners. We have quite a broad base, both in Italy and abroad. And basically, grazie, thank you from me. Please do get in touch. You have my mail here. As I say, please get in touch if you're interested in transforming your research results into audiovisual and visible product of this type. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So are there any questions? Yeah?
Just a couple of words. Thanks for your presentation. Just a couple of words about the validation. I mean, massive analysis is really a reality, of course, important. Coursera is one of famous. But here in Coursera, I know about some students that give examination with some hours because it's not possible to assess the identity of the person that you are examining online. So just a couple of words on how is effective the fix of the key traits in the personal function.
Yeah, that's a great question, but unfortunately, or fortunately, one that I'm not really in a position to answer, in the sense that our own route, a decision, because in Italy the bureaucracy is quite important in the university system, and also because we value, as you are saying, we value knowing that the results of an exam are valid and can be recognized and transferred. So what we do is offer the preparation for the exam courses, but the actual exam is taken with the prof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can add, as I have a couple of courses, more than a couple on Federica, I really find that students who also attend the course, I consider they have more competencies, also the language and so on. So not only them. Thanks a lot. Now, I have the pleasure to invite to speech Paideia, Mario Capasso and Maria Borgese, and the topic is on health tech. Thanks a lot.
Good morning to everyone, and I'm here to talk about our new app, which is GAT. But firstly, let me introduce you to Paideia. So, can you see my screen? Okay, perfect. Okay, so Paideia main purpose is to bring innovation in the field of school and education with the use of new technologies, new approaches, and teaching new methods that leads the growth of the teachers and the students. And one of the tools that we use for this is the gamification. The gamification is the addition of a game mechanic to a non-video game environment for the implementation of activities and the acquisition of skills. And it's used in different fields like education, sports, or marketing business. And this is because starting from proven studies, this type of activity brings the subject into a state of full involvement of the activity is carrying out. And for this, we use the augmented reality, which allows us to take the advantage of an instrument that everyone of us has, and I'm talking about smartphones. And briefly, the virtual reality, the augmented reality, sorry, is combines the real and the virtual elements to increase the perception of reality around us. And it aims to reach the environments in which we are with digital elements such as 3D models with which we can interact. And this therefore gives us the possibility to introduce a new educational approach to any level of education, as we will see into the application. So let's focus on the project. And GAD is a project that we have developed to respond one of main needs that we have to face in the field of education, that is to qualify the digital skills of trainers, educators, and teachers, bringing precisely those innovations that we were talking about, such as the augmented reality, with the use of new technologies that are increasingly present in everyday field. And this app is the results of a collaboration of three teams, which we have Paideia, which is us, and we are the coordinator of this project. We have also the University of Valencia and the Daphne group. But this app is just not only an app, but combines a platform, an online platform, and an application on your mobile. Talking about the platform, we have an online platform where we can upload lessons, quizzes, 3D models, and it's made to create a community of teachers, students, and 3D artists that can share their own 3D models, their own lessons, and their own quizzes with the other members of community totally for free. So the other members of community can download, for example, a 3D model or a lesson, a full lesson with the related 3D model, and use it for their own lesson in one university, in one elementary school, in one high school, or just to study for their own. For example, I'm a student and I follow, for example, Med University, and I can download a precise lesson uploaded by one of my professors, and I can download it on my smartphone with the related 3D models, and I can follow every information that the teacher gave me through the application. And talking about the application, I'm going to show you a small alpha of the application because the GAD is still in development. So I'm going to share you my my mobile phone. Just 1 second. So in this way, you can see the implementation that we have made at this point with the application, and what we can now do with our GAD application. Okay, I think you can see my screen. Okay, yes, perfect. So I have here the alpha of the application, so I'm going to open it. So as you can see, there is a splash screen with the GAD logo, and it's loading because it's a little bit heavy like application. So there is a quick loading screen, and now in the application we have two sessions that we can start: the lesson and the quiz. Let's go with lesson. As you can see, there is two different fields with which we can interact: the new lesson and the my lesson. These are two lessons that I have already created, and you can see that they have an icon, for example, the dog or the human body, the name of the lesson that you give to them, and the date of the creation of the lesson. So you can know which lesson are you using and in which date it was created. But let's create a new lesson. So I'm going to click on the plus button. And here there are a few 3D models that we already have implemented. For example, the dog, the brain, the frog, and whale, and human body. Let's go to human body just to see how it works. For example, I'm clicking on it, and now I can choose the lesson name just to be sure that it's different from the others. For example, I can choose just body or better. And now it's added to the to my lessons, so I can click on it and it will open my application. So now I'm seeing through my phone my desk, and now I just have to scan my my real ambient. For example, I'm showing you my desk, but now you can see my floor. So you see there are kind of blue planes that are being drawing in my 3D ambient. And now for spawn the 3D models, I can just tap on one surfaces, and now we have the 3D model that we choose before. Now, how can I interact with it? I can simply go around it with my phone, so see it like it just here in my room, or is it simply a simple statue that is in my room? But I can also use the toolbar down to make some more interactions, like move it up and down, rotate it, scale it, and do other stuff that I'm showing you. The first one is move. So I'm activating the first button and move it up and down, just touching it. I don't know if you can see me. So I'm touching the model and it's going up and down. I can rotate it with the second button, like this. So I can focus to one of a specific part that I want to see in this model. And I can scale my model just to make it bigger or smaller, like this. Or make it even very smaller. But let's assume that I want to reset my my 3D model's location. I can just click on the fourth button, and you can see it will display you the blue planes, and I can, for example, make it appear there. So on each plane, you can you can spawn your 3D model. So let me spawn it next to me again. And now there is the most interesting part of this application, which is add information to one single part of the 3D models that you choose. For example, with the fifth button, the fifth button allows you to add information, or such we call them comments, to a specific part of the body. For example, the head. Clicking on the head, it will appear a small other 3D elements that we can click, and it will open a pop-up text in which we can write, for example, this is head. And we can delete this comment with the bin red button, but we can also save it and just close this comment. And let's assume I want to spawn another on the arm. So I click the fifth button and I spawn the other on the arm and open it and write this is arm. And as you can see, if I rotate now my model, they will follow it. And obviously you can add a long text in all these comments, but you can simply also hide them and show them again with the sixth button in this way. And when you want to add another, you can just click the fifth button and add whatever you want. So now I can save the lesson, make a copy of it, and delete it, obviously, and go back into the load screen. So now maybe I can save my lesson and go back to the load screen. I go again in lesson, and I upload this. Sorry, it's a little bit TV.
Yeah.
And as you can see, there is my lesson that I...
May I ask to conclude, as we are really...
Yes, I'm going to show you the last part and I'm concluding. Sorry. So the last part of the application is quizzes, and we can use the models that we see previously. For example, the dog. Sorry, it's a little bit heavy. Maybe I just to reopen it because sometimes overloads your phone. And with quizzes, you can use the 3D models in augmented reality, also moving it, scaling it, or rotating it to answer to the questions that we have. Okay, so as you can see, I'm again scanning the room. This is the 3D models, and I can use it to observe it and respond and answer to the questions.
Yeah, sorry, Mario, but we have another session, so we have a...
Okay, so thank you. Sorry for my delay.
And for this really interesting project, Erasmus project, really working, and our congratulations. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all for attention.
So it's really, we have a really interesting time. It's my pleasure to have Professor Loredana Cristaldi. She's one of the person in charge of the RES4net, and she will close our session. Thanks a lot for your coming. It was really an interesting debate, and we really learned. We really had great insights from each of the presenters. Thanks a lot. Please.
Thank you, Cristina. I will try to synthesize my speech in order to reach the coffee break on time. Okay, but only a few words to close this panel, telling about the RES4net experience. Of course, it is a work in progress, considering that RES4net is really young. RES4net was born under the impetus to create a network of altruism, but with the consciousness that communicated the result of our research, if you want to do this action. We have to change the language and to communicate in a different way, using, for example, different communication channel. And for example, Tullio Rossi's speech has explained us how to modify our way of thinking. Of course, it is clear to us that a young digital native researcher prefers social media and non-verbal communication for sharing their scientific results. And the recent pandemic has allowed us to experiment with the new strategies on a large scale. One of the targets of RESPONNET is to increase the visibility of the scientific production of their members, working on the natural capacity of the network to increment the contacts. So, members are supported in the definition and development of multimedia product and are guided on the effective use of new media. And thanks to the suggestion and the cooperation of the communication students of Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Cristina has already explained that in our net we have 14 Italian universities, and we are creating materials that we can share by means of our webpage. And we are working, in fact, on the definition and the website, in the population of Instagram channel, and in particular on the creation of new material. Extended reality, for example, is one of the topics that we want to develop in our multimedia material. But last but not least, we want to enlarge the international members of our net. So you are welcome if you want to join our net. About the website and Instagram channel, we have created the vectors and support, so you can give a look to our link. And about enlargement to international member. The challenge is the liaison with IEEE TC7. And why TC7? Because the goal of the committee are very close to the target of RESPONNET that you have seen in the previous slides. Provide forum and in particular activate international cooperation and research activity represent the most important target. And of course, this is our liaison. But I hope to start next year my presentation with the result about this liaison. And of course, I hope that you want to enjoy our night. That's all, and I hope to discuss with you during the coffee break. Thank you, Cristina. Thank you. Your organization is incredible and really interesting. And I think that for RESPONNET, it will represent a sort of stimulus and introduction to new experience.
Thanks a lot for your kind word. It was the aim also. I thank Nicola Moncaldi, Professor Arpaia, Dr. Angelo Ranieri, and all the people working, because there is a huge people working behind our social media and our activities. And I really want to thank you, our expert, because the idea was to figure out a little bit the systems around a different way of communicating scientific results and promote public management and see the three souls of academia as teaching, researching, and also, of course, the so-called third mission. Thanks a lot, and we'll see next year the progress of also the projects, the several presenters explain. Thanks, enjoy the conference, and of course, good luck with your breakthrough projects. Thanks a lot for the cooperation. Yeah, as I always say, this is a co-creation of panel and of course of science as a public good. Thanks a lot. Arrivederci, grazie ancora.
Grazie a voi.
Arrivederci.
Ciao.